So today, brothers and sisters, we've touched in nearly 400 now. We have got our main speaker today, Brother Dr. Baba Buntu. Are you with us, my king? All the way from Johannesburg, South Africa, Azania, Sanibonani.
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 Thank you so much, and very, very warm greetings to all sisters and brothers all the way from Azania. Thank you so much for having me.
Brother, we love you, brother. We love you. I could say now, brother, that what you've done on this platform already in the past lives with us forever. We don't start any of our Tuesday sessions, brother, without the words that you taught us on this platform. Yeah? So that's how much we love you, my king. Just before you start, my big brother, Sister Jurita, just you know about Sister Jurita. She'll be coming in at you anytime, brother. Maybe even stopping your flow, but she's the voice. She's the voice of the voiceless. Okay, so brothers and sisters, please put your questions as the brother's going through in the Q&A box, or put your comments down. Sister Jurita will be picking up on them. And brother, you know what? This is our African History Month over here. We know we're Africans every single day, brother. And I just want to give you the greetings from the UK, the Caribbean, and North America, who's on this platform right now. We want to greet you in the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. And we want to hand over to you, my king.
Thank you so much, Brother Andrew, my beloved brother, and thank you so much to all sisters and brothers on the platform. Thank you to the Hidden Truth. You are really an institution of knowledge, of reminders, of self-pride, and of really creating the revolution and adding to the revolutionary journey that we all need to take part in. Thank you so much for all the work that you do, and everyone that I get to see. I'm so inspired as I'm peeping in, following who is giving small presentations on the platform about the work that they do. It is so important for us as African people to see that there are other African people who do this, and not because they are privileged, not because they have lots of money coming to them, but because they are stubborn and they decide to do what is necessary. So I'm so thankful, so thankful. Brothers and sisters, I've been asked to talk about the fall of African civilization. And some of you will know that I represent a company called Ebukosini Solutions, which is an organization here in Johannesburg, Azania, that I founded in 2002. I run it together with my wife, Mama Teburo, and a spiritual son called Pitira Rahupala. And I know that Tabang Mohale, who is a very instrumental contributor to the work, is also on the platform tonight. So I just want to say on behalf of all of us, Sanibonani, and a very warm revolutionary greetings. Blessed Black History Month. Thank you for the work, and thank you for the continuation. If I may, I will go into, I have a presentation I'd like to share with you, and you will just guide me, hoping that I will fit within the time schedule that I'm allocated. But basically what I'd like to do with this presentation, sisters and brothers, is to answer the question: if African civilizations were so high, or were so elaborate, and so in such magnitude and in such awe for everyone who came to witness and experience them, how could we fall so low? And as I'm asking this question, I'm trying to get into our minds when we process the idea and the historical event of the whole continent being taken over by a small group of people, by people coming from on boats, not really knowing that much, and just taking over a whole continent that had such great systems in place. How could that happen, and what was really going wrong? And as I can preempt that what I want to share is that there's a number of overlapping reasons that led to Africa's downfall. And the reason I think it's important for us to talk about it is that we need to understand what happened so that we can learn from the mistakes, learn from when history did not serve us well, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. Because as we know, We are still a haunted people. We are still a hunted people. There's numerous power structures in this world that is banking on the fact that we will remain powerless. So just before I go into 10 different 10 reasons why African civilizations fell, I wanted us to be reminded about the power of the mind. And we could look at thoughts as vibrations of energy. When we put our mind to certain ways of thinking, it also does something to our will. It does something to what we see and envision. Our consciousness is a way to elevate. It's a way of being fully aware and have an overview. And that's really power, if you think about it. The opposite is the mind of the oppressed. And the design of the mind of the oppressed is to be destined for death. So I just want us to, when we look around our society, we see many people who, beyond the smiles, beyond the talent that they may even have, we can see an element of this destination towards death that is so prevalent in our community. And I just want us to be reminded that it comes from somewhere. It comes from a design. Our memory is so important. It's a lens for interpretation. Memory actually creates intelligence. So when we don't remember, when we suffer from amnesia, we struggle to make sense. We struggle to make sense of being, and we struggle to make sense of crafting thoughts and plans of how to go forward. So I would say it like this. If I own my past, meaning I understand it, I know it, I tell the story of my past, I also know how to act in my present because I understand how I ended up here. And then I can envision my future. And that's why it's so significant that Black history is being presented, being repeated until we internalize what it really is about, so that we become walking libraries of knowledge, not just people who check into seminars now and then to get our dose. It's something that we need to harbor within ourselves. So when we talk about future, I would say the future belongs to those who own the past. When I say own the past, meaning writing the history of it, documenting it, telling the world what has happened, and holds the keys to what is seen as truth. And we know in a large way, in a huge way, that is not us at present stage. The present becomes nonsensical when my past is unavailable and my future becomes inconceivable. That's why it is important to draw from my past as an essential place, not to revert or live in. And I think this is important to understand. There are those who feel that, but why are we talking so much about history? Shouldn't we talk about how to go forward? That's where we need to go. But we can't go forward. And many will be familiar with the Sankofa principle, looking back while going forward. This is how we hold the keys to the future. So let me go into 10 reasons that I think it's important to understand in terms of really understanding the downfall of African civilizations. And you will remember that to really make sense of what I'm saying now, you need to have a discussion first on the greatness of African history. That's not what I'm going to cover right now, but that's what it sits as a continuation of. So one of the reasons for downfall of civilizations and cultures in Africa can be ascribed to nature. So for instance, we know Sahara as a desert, as a huge desert that actually takes up about 30% of the landmass of the African continent. But it wasn't always a desert. There was a time in our history, and about 12,000 BC, something happened. The land was inhabitable at the time, so most people lived across the Nile Valley in that part of the African continent. But around that time, monsoon rains started to fall, and over 500 years, the Sahara region became a green land, became a very prosperous and arable land that people moved into. Now, after some years, and we will remember that when we get to about 7,000 to 6,000 BC, this is also when we see the great blossoming of incredible civilizations. But over the years, Sahara became the desert that we now know it as. And as our civilizations were growing and as the desert was also growing, people who had been hindered to spy on us, come in and see what we were doing, study the miraculous civilizations that we had built, now had more access, because the people would be moving further south, because they would be moving away from the areas that now became desert lands. And people could then move closer to us, study us, infiltrate us, over time become part of trade routes, become part of elements in our societies where they would also have an impact on decision making, understanding what people were concerned about, instigating political conflicts. And this was a major part of how also the green lands were changing into desert, and by that also creating a new form of livelihoods would be impacted, settlements would be impacted, new diseases would start because of the changes in nature, the changes in climate. The demographical changes would have an impact on what happened next in African history. Another aspect of our downfall is to be seen in our invasions. So from about 2000 BC, a number of people started to invade, or probably started more what could be seen as visits or curiosity or wanting to explore. But this turned into, over the years to come, to become brutal raids of occupation. To such an extent, I'm sure some of us have heard about the Hyksos people who came in around the 1700 BC, and at one point took over the rulership of Kemet. And this happened by a number of people who came in at different times, who collided with certain leaders, who took over or influenced the opinions of certain segments of societies, became very strong elements in societies, and by doing that, also changed the nature of political stability in the Nile Valley and surrounding areas. This created division, and it also created what later became a huge problem for Africa, the issue of divisions and alliance. Who can you trust? Who can you not trust? A third element was trade. So when we go back and look at African history, trade was a huge aspect of African societies. There would be incredibly huge markets where people could trade, where people could travel, where people could get all sorts of gold, of precious stones, salts, fabrics, kola nuts, metal, beads, a number of things that people also came from quite far away to get. Now, people who came from other parts of the world who were interested in taking over and dominating African trade then started to also infiltrate these trade routes, and over time took over the leadership and the management of some of the trade routes. And obviously then wanting to enrich themselves and wanting to push back the many people who actually benefited from being part of this system of trade that favored, people around the various regions of especially West Africa. We had a number of trade routes in West Africa. We had a number of trade later on the continent, also in the eastern and more southern region. So these would be taken over, and the wealth distribution would then go in favor of those who were invading and taking over these trade routes. This collapsed the economy in many places and made many communities very vulnerable and in need of support and in need to collaborate with people who represented a political trade impact that did not serve the regions where they appeared within. Religion, I think this is something that we're still discussing a lot about, and we see the marks of how religious wars have affected us as a people and our continent. So it's important to remember that when new religions are introduced militantly, it's not just about a choice over what you believe in. It's not a choice of what book and what scripture and what spirituality you choose. It's about matters of existence, matters of keeping alive, matters of choosing to be with the power that seems to reign, the power that seems to take care of their people. So you make choices based on that much before understanding the spiritual content of what that particular religion is professing. So when people make choices like that out of desperation, out of wanting to stay alive, you will also know that then they would make choices in favor of those who come across as more powerful, those who come across as having more assets and resources to create and sustain livelihoods. But it's important also to understand that this also became an eradication of spiritual power, because when we study our history, and I feel more needs to be written about this, we had access to an incredible spiritual power in how we understood being, how we understood humanity, how we understood the meaning of life, how we understood the meaning of connecting with this universe and our spiritual powers. A lot of that got lost, and a lot of that was eradicated because those who oppressed us and those who forced us into their religious scripts were very aware that these were the powers that we had. So a very important part of their warfare against us was to drive us away from the ways that we practiced our spirituality. Dominance. And dominance in so many different ways. Culturally, we have just mentioned religion and trade, so economic dominance. But what this does, it creates political instability. It breaks down alliances. It questions so many things that were trusted within African leadership in ancient times. It's important to remember that African leadership was an institution of divine order. So when now your leader is no longer held to account as somebody who subscribes to a divine order, but rather is there to create political influence, to push forward a certain political agenda, to represent a certain people. Now, these various aspects of dominance creates a lot of insecurity, a lot of disputes amongst people, divide and rule tactics that we are quite aware of that have been used against us all over the African world. Threats of extermination, forcing you to make choices that you otherwise may not have wanted to do. Hostility, exploitation, and also the destructive, to learn that destructive power now becomes normal. This is completely opposite to how ancient African societies were ruled in relative peace and harmony. Migration. So many of these things that I've mentioned now also leads to people not wanting to stay in the areas that they may have stayed before. So you could just imagine how some of us would want to break out from a certain space where we see that our family can no longer be in trade, our family no longer have access to the rights and the privileges that we always have had. We would now want to flee. And where would you want to flee? You would flee to areas where people cannot easily find you, dominate you, make you bow to their reign. So you would hide in difficult places that are difficult to access, difficult to find, difficult to actually work with in the way you would have chosen if you were free, if you had the opportunity to choose only based on what land is useful for your agricultural produce, what land seems to be nice for your family and your nation to stay on. Now you make choices based on skepticism towards other. And you can imagine, let's say, a community that once were part of each other, maybe because of a leadership dispute or a loyalty dispute, now this community divides in two. One goes east, one goes south. And imagine that after some generations, members of these two communities actually meet. Now they no longer trust each other. They no longer see themselves as part of the same people. They would be skeptical. They would be fearful of what the other actual family member now represents and what they would want to do. So you can also see here the beginning.
Brother,
yes.
Damn good teaching, brother. Educate us, King.
Thank you so much. So you can also here see the stream of that lack of trust that we today even discuss amongst each other. Another aspect
Sarah,
is
before you continue, can I cut in just there? I have one question that's popped up. It's from Paul. And he says, are you saying that other nations were only a little inferior in the sense of intelligence, power, knowledge, and saw Africa as a means to up their status?
Sorry, please read that question again.
Paul says, are you saying that the other nations were only a little inferior in the sense of intelligence, power, knowledge, and saw Africa as a means to up their status?
Okay, if the question is about the level of intelligence, I think many nations came to mash up aspects of African civilization and destroy, not necessarily with the, like, for instance, an aspect of both the, we could call them Middle Eastern tribes and also Southern European tribes that attempted to invade and sometimes successfully invaded parts of Africa, often did that because they were jealous of the power and the intricate knowledge that were held, and sometimes just wanted to destroy. And I sometimes think about it in this way, that, for instance, a very Western approach to power is to just exterminate and kill. Not necessarily, I mean, you could understand a logic of trying to coexist or trying to get more closer to own something. But for instance, look at how libraries, how great monuments were just burned and destroyed. It doesn't make any sense. The hunger just to kill. And I'm, in my mind, I'm seeing conversations like you would meet some of these tribes and you would say, where are you from? No, we just killed a lot of African people. Yeah, so what did they do to you? No, we just killed them. Yeah, but what was the problem? No, we just killed them. Yeah, but why did you kill them? No, we just killed them. And that doesn't speak to intelligence in my book. That doesn't speak to understanding really what human life should be about. And I think this is also why Africa stood perplexed in confrontation with many of these people, because there was an honor to African conflict. There was an honor even when there were disputes between African people. It was not about mass killings. It was not about killing as many as possible. It was not trying to exterminate. If they were killing, maybe after one or two had been killed, the war would stop because the point had been made. And that is a very different form of warfare than what we saw these Western and Middle Eastern tribes creating towards African people. So the question of intelligence, I don't think at this point in African history, I don't think people came in with a clear understanding that we're going to take this over and it's going to be, but as they went, they understood the power of trade, they understood the power of influence, they understood the power of positioning themselves as killing powers. And as we know, when somebody gets killed, we will respond, we will take notice, we will be fearful. We don't want to be in a place where there's killing happening. So when these very different value-based raids against people happen, there's a clash of values, there's a clash of understanding of humanity, there's a clash of understanding what future should bring. Let me just quickly touch on a few more of the reasons that led to Africa's fall. You can now, based on what I've shared so far, think about, remember I mentioned the example of a community or a nation was split in two and maybe live for generations in different areas. Chances are that over time they will develop their language differently. So even when members of that society that once were one now meet, they may not be able to easily speak to each other and may not see themselves as part of each other. So language is also a form of division. As much as it's beautiful to think of diversity of language, and there is a beautiful part that we should also appreciate, but it also can be a conduit and a tool for suspicion, to oppose communalism, to be used for political agendas, to create alliances around political ideas because they are articulated within the language that only now a group of people feel that is theirs. So it creates also this, it opposes this idea of unity, and it also conflicts with the ability that many African societies had for the longest time of being able to stay next to each other and being integrated with each other, having different languages, having slightly different understandings of cultural expressions and spiritual work that they did. Identity. So this, obviously, I'm mentioning 10 aspects, and it's not just that one leads to the other. These are overlapping aspects of the many problematic aspects of what happened during this time. Identity, disconnection from the fundamentals of being. It's important for me to say land, and we are in a part of Africa where land is a huge issue right now. Black people own very little land. Land is owned by a few white people and used for commercial produce, sold back to Black communities who have to pay a lot for the things that we should have been able to grow on our own land. So when you lose land, you don't just lose, in an African sense, you don't just lose the ability to grow your own food. You also lose your connection with being, because land in an African understanding is highly spiritual. Land mirrors you. The agricultural cycle is also a reproductive cycle. So it speaks to a human quality of being part of an ecosystem that you should be a part of, not reign over or try to destroy or use with all kinds of evil intent. So all of these beautiful aspects of understanding your worth as a human being falls apart when land no longer belongs to you. It corrupts the idea of what is a creative force, what is the spiritual world, what is my identity, who are my people, what am I here for? And it corrupts your human character when you no longer can connect with the land. So identity, and I think we are quite aware of how far our oppressors pushed the discrepancies we have around identity, our looks, our complexions, our lineages, our North and West and East and South, all of these things that have become markers of our disunity up to today. I'm going to mention two more, and I think this is where I'm coming to maybe the aspects that we are quite more familiar with. So why I'm mentioning violence here is I want us to understand what it means when a whole people become non-beings. Non-beings in the sense that it no longer matters if we die or if we are alive. Or when it matters that we are alive, it's only in response to whether we can produce something for those who own us or direct us or rule over us. The Black being then starts to identify him or herself as worthless. And when you do that, violence becomes easy, violence becomes normal. Violence is no longer a shock. And if we look at our communities around the world today, we see how violence have a huge impact on our communities, and also how fatigued we are by battling with violence. It's crazy. Look at how our people are being killed and murdered and maimed, and it's not really a shock, it's not really a problem to the rest of the world. But, and this is my point, it also may not be such a big problem to us, because we may march for a day or two. We might write something angry on Facebook. We might join an organization for a couple of weeks, but on a daily basis, we are also getting used to that Black lives are not so worthy. Black people die a lot, and we become insensitized to our own massacres. Last point is modernity. And now I'm taking it to today. And I want us to understand that our love for modernity, our ideas of that modernity is where we want to go, comes from a very dark history that I've just tried to share right now. So modernity often presents itself as lucrative, as progressive, as the only place you must go. But think about it. What is the African modernity? What is the Asian modernity, even if we should go there? What is modernity other than Western infused or oriented modernity? So it is a new form of Westernization. And within modernity, the African non-being sits very strongly. We talk about a global village, but where's the Black representation in the global village? When we say that the world is coming closer now, we are all learning from each other. What is it that the world is learning about Africa and from Africa? What lessons are we teaching? What classes are we teaching? Africa is still a land of wild animals and exploits, and where the world can get its oil and minerals and gold. That's what Africa really means in this world. So I wanted us to just take in that when we talk about modernity, we normally talk about Westernization, and we have become agreeable to this in our working roles, through our titles, through a lot of what we do. We become part of a system that endorses and accepts white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy, and a number of Western values that now no longer seem to be Western culture. It seems to be just what we do in this world. And I want us to be very cautious when it comes to this. I'm going towards closing, just reminding us about the 10 points that I mentioned: nation invasions, trade, religion, dominance, migration, language, identity, violence, and modernity. And I could mention more. My point was to see that there are many coexisting aspects that led to our downfall and made it difficult for us to keep standing in the power that we once had. And I would like to challenge ourselves. Now I'm coming home to us. When I say we need to own our problem, I don't mean that we must identify as victims and just sit there and feel there's nothing we can do. But I want us to take some responsibility for right now. We are also allowing African civilizations to die. If we don't set up our own schools, if we don't set up our own manufacturing production houses, if we don't create what our ancestors so freely and so powerfully did, we become part of the problem. So we then need to also own the solution. And I think African civilizations will only resurface when our will is ready to reclaim and rebuild. And that means doing what hidden truth is doing, to bring back the memory.
King, Dr. Baba. Brother, I'm listening to you, brother. Even the way you answered the question, brother. Oh my God, you're being guided by the Most High. And I'm not even saying it to make you feel good, brother. This is teaching tonight. This is damn teaching tonight, brother. I can't. Brothers and sisters, if you're feeling my king, because he see, sometimes he may think, oh, Andrew, you're just saying that. If you're feeling this king, brothers and sisters, put bun and cheese in the chat room. Just put down bun and cheese. Bun and cheese, and then you go to the kitchen and you make some bun and cheese. If you're feeling this, brother, let him know. Drop your bun and cheese in there now, because jeez, brother, you ain't playing with the UK tonight. Teach.
My brother, thank you so much. Thank you so much. No, family, I'm about to close. I just wanted us to I hope you don't misunderstand me. When I say we must own the problem, it doesn't end there. But the thing is, not owning the problem, just to explain that. If we don't own the problem, all we can say is that we are oppressed because white people oppressed us. And that is true. But if that's the finishing of our sentence, then we are just sitting here waiting for Europeans to undo what they did to us. And that first of all, that's not going to happen. And secondly, if it was, we cannot take that risk. That's one thing we're not going to do. So we're going to have to take control over what we do with the problem that we now own, because when we own it, we also create the solution for it. So we need to bring back Africa. And I want to say this, since I'm on a platform where mostly people based in UK are tuning in. Our idea of being sisters and brothers needs to be expanded so much more. We do have, and I want to go into a thorny issue. we do have an issue amongst us as people, and there are many intricate details to this. But one mainstream is that some people on the continent feel that people in the diaspora are lost. They are no longer Africans. They are no longer, they are descendants of enslaved people, so they are no longer us. On the other side, we also have people from the Caribbean and from the African diaspora who came to the different parts of the world through the largest forced migration and kidnapping of African people through the so-called transatlantic slavery, who feel that people on the continent sold us, so we no longer want to associate with the continent. And this is a very, very great opportunity for our oppressors to use us against us. White people have, and Arabs have set the world up in such a way that sometimes they can easily not be in the room and we will still go into chaos and destruction. And it's important that when we say we are sisters and brothers, that must show. We must not just talk about it and write about it in cute formulations. It must be a serious brotherly and sisterly bond that we need to set up. It takes you, it takes we, it takes us. So I don't want us to keep having conversations where we sit on the continent and say, yeah, you see people in America, you see people in London, you see people in Jamaica. The problem is 1, 2, 3. While people on that side say, you see Africans on the continent don't know. The thing is, we need to do this together. If we don't do that, we will stay like this forever. And I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with that. When we rise, African humanity regains its purpose. And I want us to get to that purpose because it's a purpose we can see, we can feel, we know when it's in place. So I'm challenging you. Are you playing the role that you have been destined for in this journey? Because you are needed, you are important, and I'm inviting you to, because I know many of you already have stepped into your purpose, but I want you to walk that extra mile because this cannot be easy. This cannot be soft. This cannot be done quickly. It has to be done in a hard way. Sisters and brothers, I have shared the slides that I wanted to share, but I cannot leave you without also showing some of the faces of the people that I represent. I need to show you a few faces. I feel I'm not even doing my task if I just sit here and you're looking at my funny face for the whole time. Now, I wanted to also share that these are some of the sisters and brothers that are involved in the work that we do. And I wanted to single out the slide on the right, Teen Talks. It's a program that we have online for young men between 12 and 19. And a couple of young men based in UK are already part of the program. If anyone would like to be part of it, there's still an opening. Let us know. I'm sharing the contact details. And I also wanted to just share this particular picture. This picture was taken on Saturday. We have an event called Men on the Mountain. And it is men walking a very intentional journey towards a mountain. In African culture, when you sit on a mountain, you become very serious and you become in tune with your ancestral powers and also with the spirits that guide you. So it's a very deep, deep, deep reflection. It's a deep anchoring of really asking yourself the question, as an African man, am I doing the work that I'm supposed to? Am I the son, the brother, the husband, the father that I'm supposed to? And if I'm not, what am I willing to do to improve it? And that's the answer you need to walk from the mountain with. And these are the men who came to the mountain to ask that question and also to walk away with the answers. Brother Muhammad, you will tell me when we're going to do Men on the Mountain in the UK, but we're ready. That's what I want you to know. We are ready.
Yes.
So I thank you so much for listening. And these are our contact details. If you'd like to reach out to us, if you are interested in some of the work that we do, if you'd like to form a bond with some of the projects, if you'd like to come and visit, if you'd like to come and move home, or if you'd like to support us, please do get in touch. I thank you, beloved family. Thank you so much.
Brother Baba, Dr. Baba. Wow, wow, wow. Come on, brothers and sisters. That was smelly. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Fire on backsides tonight. Brother, that was ace. and you've done
Thank
it
you so
in
much.
time. You absolutely killed the game. I love that presentation, brother. I think that may be the best one you've done so far, brother. And that's saying a lot
Thank
because
you.
you've killed the game.
Thank you
Sister
so much.
Jurita, was there anything? Was there any comments? Any? Because I saw madness on that chat line tonight. That was fire.
Yeah, I know that everybody was just commenting on how good it was, how
Wow.
I mean, there's people from, obviously, as you know, all over the world on this platform, and all of them were commenting on how it resonated with wherever they were. So, it was a sister who kept on saying, and this is the streets of London, and this is the streets of London. And actually, you know, I think regardless of where you're living right now, if you're from Black culture, you really did talk about what we're all experiencing regardless. So yeah, no, thank you so much. It was really, really enjoyable, really concise, really straight to the point, and we know what we need to now do.
Brother. I know there's lots of programs that you're involved in, okay, but we've got over 400 plus people right now on the platform. Is there any other programs, or are there any other things or any other events coming up soon? Because you've got us tonight, brother. Use this platform. You've got us tonight.
Wow. Thank you so much, brother Andrew and Sister Jurita and everyone. Yes, we do have ongoing programs. I think, let me just say it in big chunks. We have programs for sisters, we have programs for brothers, we have programs for young people. Our idea is not to separate, but we understand that there's certain journeys we need to walk, sisters on their own, brothers on their own, but where we are walking is this reintegration of self, that where I need to mirror what my sister needs, and my sister needs to mirror what I need. But for many of us, we are not there yet. We keep hurting each other. We keep confusing each other. We keep having a surface relationship with each other, but we need to go deeper. So that's what we're doing. And we know that a number of people are doing this in other countries as well. We are always interested in forming collaborations and staying in touch with people. We document what we do. We are more than willing to share and to open up those channels. We do well, I'm involved in a lot of work with brothers, not only work with men, but we have seen the need for having intentional work for brothers. So every Monday that would be 7 p.m. UK time, on my Facebook page, Baba Buntu, we have a show called Unstuck. It's primarily it's geared for the African man globally, but we also have a number of sisters who tune in and give us advice and support, and we really appreciate that. But it's really to look at the world through the eyes and experiences of African men, but to motivate to be part of the solution. So that one and the Team Talk, we really would love to see more people also come on board on those platforms, so that we can also have this global dialogue on a weekly basis.
Wow. Jurita, there's no questions up for, because I know everything he said was plain.
It was so plain. But I do have one that's popped up. This is from Simon. He says, how do you see these topics being discussed in Africa? Is there more to be done to raise the consciousness on the level? And if so, how can that be done?
Thank you so much for the question. I think I need to say this, that I sit at a privileged position that I work with young people, because many people my own age who do not work so much with young people would give you a very different answer than what I give. And they may say that the conversations that are being held are mostly in political circles and are mostly among intellectuals and people who have studied and have university degrees. I don't find that to be true in my experience. I work a lot with young people, and I find that young people across the African continent and the diaspora, but I'm focusing a lot on the continent right now, are asking the right questions. They are ready, they are open, they are sick and tired of what has been told to them, that they feel, but this is not the whole truth. Where's my story? Where's my reflection? Where's my journey? And that is a window that will not be open for too long. And I think that's why I want to say also that there are a number of sisters and brothers in the diaspora that are called to go home. And I think you should act on it. And we are a place you can ask any question about moving, about coming to work for a while, or whatever you would be interested in. We are here to provide those answers and that advice. We need teachers. We need consciousness to not just, I think the conversations are being had, especially amongst young people. But you see, the beauty of the young and the older coming together is that the youth have the unrestricted questioning and the impatience, whereas the elders are supposed to have the experience and being able to give advice of how to set things up, how to institutionalize, and how to move forward. So when we can come together intergenerationally, that's when we really can see our collective potency. But I would say this: young people are asking the right questions, they're ready to go, but there's very little leadership, and there's very many, I will say this, there's a lot of people my age who are not doing what they're supposed to do as mentors, as guides for young people. Young people are literally saying, guide me. And we're saying, yeah, no, you are just rude and you are just on Facebook all the time. That's all we say to young people. We need to come at it very differently. And I want to challenge my generation.
Ouch. I think it is.
Did you feel that?
I felt that. I felt shots fired on that one.
Did you feel that? Doctor's not playing. He ain't coming to play tonight.
Yeah.
He ain't coming to play tonight.
Absolutely.
I felt the mirror being held up on that one. But I think, and I don't know, truth be told, with some people that I know now who have been offered jobs abroad